Welcome back to Always Another Game podcast where we dig deep into the athlete's minds to learn the highs and lows of what they've gone through in sport, but most importantly, how they utilize that in life away from the game, that they can be successful in parenting, business, or just in life in general. And today we have an exciting guest on because this guest is going to show us what it really takes to be disciplined and focused. Because we have Lorraine Owolabi, and I believe I did pronounce that right. Hey, Lorraine, how's it going?
I'm good, thanks, Shaun. And yes, you did pronounce that right. It's quite a tricky surname, and funny enough, yeah, my mum, bless her, still can't pronounce it. So no, you did pronounce that very well.
I had to say it slowly. I will get it. I will get better at it for
Yeah,
sure.
you
But
did
no, it's
well.
great. It's great to have you on. Lorraine and I have been connected a little while on social media, and actually, funnily enough, I didn't know her story. I didn't know what you were all going to hear about today, because Lorraine is actually a black belt. Now, for me, growing up, Karate Kid was the cool thing, right? We all wanted to be a black belt. We all want it was a sign of, I don't know, strength, discipline, power. So yeah, I can't wait to learn more about this. So first and foremost, though, what I need everybody to know, Lorraine, is who are you? Who is Lorraine Owolabi?
Right. Okay. Yes, I think first of all, yeah, you're absolutely right. Everybody wanted to be Karate Kid, didn't they? Well, I did, absolutely.
Yep.
And that was a massive inspiration for me, wanting to be in the dojo and yeah, be that Karate Kid. So I'm Lorraine. I'm the founder and director of Lorraine Freelance PA. So if you follow me on social media, you'll know that basically I conquer admin, overwhelm for business owners and the neurodiverse community. So taking away all those to-do things on your list that you just think, oh gosh, I've got to do, but I don't want to do, I don't have the time to do. I'm also a mum to two little girls who are gorgeous but complete rascals. And yes, I have a black belt in Shotokan karate.
Yeah, and that was the bit as well that stood out to me was the Shotokan, and I'm going to get you to talk about that in a little bit more detail shortly. It sounds like you're living your childhood dream. Now, not many people know this about me, but apparently when I was a kid, I wanted to be a clown. Now, a lot of people actually say I'm doing pretty well at being a clown, just not an official one. But yeah, it sounds like you're living a little bit of actually what you wanted to do as a child.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I started when I was a child, so I was actually quite young. I was 8 when I started. And mum and dad got me into trying ballet, brownies, all the girly things that my sister was doing and my sister loved, but it just wasn't for me. It just didn't click. I totally switched off, and then they put me in the dojo, and things changed massively. It just felt right.
Yeah, yeah. How does something like that come about? Because yeah, I think for a lot of parents, they do like the thought of their child doing martial arts for self-defense or discipline or whatever reason it might be. How did that come about for you? Was it purely actually Karate Kid and you're like, I need to do that? Or was that something your parents decided to put you into?
Well, I was quite a boisterous child. I used to sit in my sister's wardrobe when she would be sat on her bed. I'd jump out and scare her and want to fight. So, so I think as a child, I was just naturally quite boisterous, a little bit like my two girls. And I, not that I was naughty, because I don't like using the word naughty, but I just wasn't that focused in school when I was really young. And mum and dad felt that I needed probably a little bit more structure, a little bit more discipline. And dad became great friends with a sensei that he then instructed. He said to my dad, bring Lorraine to the dojo, let's see, how she gets on. And that was the beginning. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. And it did discipline me massively.
Yeah, I love that. So much of our influence in especially the athletes I've already been talking to has come from our parents. That they've kind of guided us in the right direction. Or I can only assume your dad was talking to his friend about your jumping out behavior,
Yeah, yeah.
and a plan was put together. So yeah, and you mentioned your girls are very similar. So how have you found that implementing what your parents did for you? How have you found those skills implementing it into parenting for your two that are similar?
Yeah. So my parents were really committed. So obviously, when I was training at my peak, I was training 5, 6 times a week, and my parents would take me all over the country to different competitions. They were equally as dedicated as what I was, and I think if you start a sport, um, and you're really focused at a young age, you need your parents' support and commitment. My girls are very much like me, so they're girly, as in they like dolls, but they are very kind of tomboyish. They love Grace, our eldest, who's nearly 7. She loves football. They're both desperate to get into the dojo. Yeah, Faith is only 5, and I think she's probably a bit too young at the moment. So maybe give her a couple of years, and
Yeah.
absolutely, I'd love to introduce them. Although I am teaching them techniques, so they understand what my Gary front kick is, and all these different
Okay.
techniques. So yeah, they do enjoy that.
Yeah, because you weren't a veteran in a sense, black belt, were you? How old were you when you qualified, or is it qualified? You
Yeah,
you use that term?
yeah,
Yeah,
achieved my black belt. So I was 30 or just 13 years old, and at the
that's
time
mad.
I was the youngest girl. I don't know if I still hold this title, but at the time I was the youngest girl in the West Country, because I live in Bristol, as you can tell from my accent probably, in the West Countries, so the whole of Bristol, South West, Cornwall, Devon, to achieve their black belt at such a young age in Shotokan karate. So yeah, I was massively focused, but like I said, equally my parents were, and it does take that as a parent, if you want your child, and your child, if they want to succeed, to be committed with them and alongside them.
I think that's a huge part though, Lorraine, because if you don't want to do it, if you didn't want to do karate or achieve your black belt, it would have become a very difficult scenario that, relationships could have been frailed. So
Yeah.
what was it about Shotokan? And maybe just tell us a little bit about what Shotokan is in terms of, because I think if anyone's like me, I see it as a bracket. I see karate as karate, but I know
Mm.
martial arts do have a lot of different styles. So what was it about Shotokan? And
So
tell us a little
sure.
bit the difference.
So Shotokan karate. So at the time, I didn't kind of, at the age of 8, I don't think my parents understood that Shotokan was the difference between Shotokan and other styles of karate and martial arts. Um, but it's very traditional. It's Japanese. It's all about striking first and hard and not getting hit. So it's all about defense. So you get in there. With some martial arts or some fights, it's about fighting, and this is more of a kind of art. It's an absolute art, and
Hmm.
there's powerful techniques, there's speed, flexibility. um yeah, as it is, as it says, it is an absolute art. It's not just about
Hmm.
being in there fighting. It's if you watch somebody do kata, which is the forms of moves, it's beautiful to watch. It's fascinating to
Hmm.
watch because it's all
Yeah.
about focus and discipline, and like I said, powerful techniques and speed. So yeah, the whole thing, it's yeah, really special.
Yeah. What was it about that though? Because for you to go 5 to 6 times a week and say yes to your parents taking you, and to want to achieve that black belt, what was so special about being in that dojo?
My sensei was really he was very strict, very, very strict, but I really respected him. The people that I was training with, so the team, even though martial art, you're very kind of on your own, but there was my team, there was the dojo, everybody there. It was just the whole environment, it was the whole thing. And I was, so there was
Hmm.
7 of us that used to train closely together, and I was the only, so there were 6 boys and me. and the boys started getting their black belts, and I was like, I can do this. I can do this. I want to be the only girl in the dojo who gets her black belt. So
Nice.
there was a lot of that. Just because you're a boy, I can do this as well. And that's the thing I always say to my girls. Whatever boys can do, girls can do, and likewise, whatever girls can
Hmm.
do, boys can do. So I think it was just, I suppose there is a competitive streak in me, and everybody else was getting their black belts, and I need to get mine. So yeah, but I loved it. I used to enjoy going to the dojo, and like I said, with other things, it could have been a chore. It was a chore when Dad was taking me to ballet and brownies. It was an absolute chore. I didn't want to go.
Hmm.
Whilst this was something I really looked forward to, and actually in school, there'd be times when I'd be daydreaming out the window, thinking, "Oh, I've got karate tonight." Yeah, really excited
Nice.
about that. More
Yeah.
so than what the teacher was saying. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I've been there. I've been there. But I always say, especially like even with my clients or any athletes that listen, I always tell them to check your PP. Okay, and I'm not talking about being hydrated. I'm talking about your purpose and your passion to do so.
Mm.
If you spoke to me about your belonging, you felt like you belonged there. You had a purpose, and on top of that, you had a passion to do so. There was a really popular advert out, wasn't about a year or so ago. This girl can, was that the slogan?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, you had that, you almost had that, right? That I can
Yeah.
match anybody.
Yeah.
And you had your, you, in a sense, you had your PP in place. You had your purpose and
Yeah.
passion to belong. But what was it that made you feel that belonging?
Again, I think it was just, when something feels right, it's like anything in life. If a relationship feels right, if a job feels right, you feel it, don't you? I don't think you can always explain that. Again,
Hmm.
anything in life, you go and buy a new house, you walk in, you feel it, and that's how I felt in the
Okay.
dojo. I
Yeah.
just felt I belonged, and when something feels right in life, whatever that is, you just feel it, and that's how I felt. And I can't. And
Yeah.
it's funny. It's just. I still. Yeah. I just still feel. You do, don't you? In life, you feel
Yeah.
that
It is
feeling.
trust in your gut. Trust that
Yeah,
your
that's exactly what
brain
it is. Your
is linked to
instinct.
your, yeah. Your
Yeah.
brain is linked to your gut. It is linked by,
Mm,
I think it's two nerves, but there's a reason. Your gut is made with the same tissue as your brain. It's connected to your brain. There
wow.
is a
Yeah.
reason they say trust your gut or gut feelings. It is
Yeah.
directly linked.
Yeah.
And what I find fascinating is, obviously I'm speaking to many different athletes, but one other one similar, but to you, but a boxer. I'm hearing very similar things to what you're
Mm,
saying. And one bit I picked up just on a second ago is you said your sensei for
yeah.
Alex was the boxing guest. He mentioned his coach a lot.
Yeah.
How vital do you feel your success was in getting that black belt? How much of that went down to your coach or sensei, and also the respect that he gained from you?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. Because he was committed to me, and the respect, even though I was a child, he respected me massively. And the encouragement, he wouldn't praise me for the sake of praising me. But
Hmm.
when, I did well, there was the praise. And when he did praise me, because it wasn't that often, but when he did, it meant so much.
Okay.
Um, and I remember him buying me a book, and in the book he wrote, and I must have been about 9, 10 years old, and in there he put, Lorraine, I know you can do this, achieve your black belt, and then you can look after your dad. It was just quite a kind of
Okay.
comical, but again, it was just, and I've still got that, and it was really special, really special.
That power of influence, having
Yeah.
somebody, whether it's your parent or coach, having somebody that believes in you, that you can trust, that guides you, is so powerful.
Mm,
And in a way, you get to do that now with your parenting and your clients.
yeah.
You get to, it's the same carryover. You get to be that sensei. Just because it's not a black belt, it doesn't mean that you're not taking those teachings and those learnings. And the fact that you still not only got the book, but you still got those words in your
Yeah.
head,
Mm.
it shows the influence that that person had on your life.
Massive influence, and you're right. It's like with my children, and in my business, my team and my clients, it's being there for them and giving them that belief, support. it is again, it's, you know, when I look back at jobs I've been in, and the leaders and the managers that I've worked with, I can probably name a couple that have really helped me, whilst other ones, they can absolutely destroy you.
Hmm.
And I think we've probably all experienced that in life. But yeah, it's yeah, his influence, and sadly he's no longer with us, but his influence, my sensei, was huge, absolutely huge.
Mm.
Yeah.
And well, you know, the influence still lives on.
Yes, yeah, and like I said, with my children and supporting them, and in my business, and being there, like I said, for my team and my clients. I think if you have that influence at a young age, it just naturally becomes part of who you are as well.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you'd had bad bosses.
Yeah.
How I'm sure, you know, we all have. I've had incredible coaches, average coaches, not so good coaches. And how do you feel that you dealt with those bad ones after having such a successful one? Do you feel like you handled it,
Um,
able to
well,
handle
one
it
of
better, or did
my
it still get to you?
no, it doesn't get to me now. And actually, one of my, I'd love to name him, but he might listen to this, he might be a bit embarrassed. But one of my bosses, and I will name the company, when I worked at GK Aerospace, he was incredible. He wasn't a manager, he was a leader. And
Mhm.
and I was his executive assistant for quite a few years. And yeah, he was a massive influence. And actually, then I got made redundant, set up my own business, but his support and how he helped me in the workplace, how he encouraged me and how he led the team has really helped me implement that into my business. So yeah, it does. I think being influenced by, like I said, from a young age with my sensei, to leaders in the workplace, and now how I am in my business. Um, yeah, you hopefully carry that through, and that there is always going to be bad bosses and what have you, but letting go. And I always feel it's actually not about the person, it's about the boss, and obviously what's going on in their lives and their issues and their management skills. So I try not to hold on to the negativity there.
Yeah, and I loved how you put it. He wasn't a manager; he was a leader,
Yeah.
and that's a massive change, right? In anything you do, whether you are employed or you're running your own business, like your is it Lorraine freelance PA, you're
Yeah.
leading, parenting, you're leading, you're not managing. That's a part of leadership, I suppose.
Yeah. And I think
How do
that's
you
it.
use leadership in your business?
Um, so being there for my team, supporting my team, and them, if they feel, if they've got something going on, they can come to me, and never judging somebody, and like I said, just supporting and being there for them. We have regular catch ups. I've got a lovely team. I've built it up, a small team, but they are incredible. Um, and I've worked now with some of them for nearly 3 years. So, you know, I've built that up, that loyalty, that trust, and that openness, that communication, and never feeling like they can't tell me something, or, you know, if they're unsure about something, they can always come to me and lead by example. And actually, you know what, always being open as well. I'm always learning. Just because I've got my own business, I've got a black belt in karate, and I'm still learning every single day. And this is something I always tell my children. My neighbour, he's nearly 97, and I always joke and I say, you know, he's still learning. We're always learning and being open to new
Yeah,
ways of working.
yeah, yeah. It is. We are. There's only. I'd say there's only one day that you stop learning. It's not a
The
nice thing to
day,
think
yeah,
about, but
it's true.
yeah, it is. Because other than that, there is always something to learn. Because life moves and evolves so quickly. It's just whether you have again that purpose and passion to continue to learn.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's a great lesson to learn. So with regards to everything you've done, because obviously you're now no longer competing in a sport element, but you are competing in life. Is there one particular area, or is there a couple of values that you feel Shotan Karate has taught you that has led you to use, whether it be in business or parenting? Is there anything that's obviously like, yeah, I've had to use that?
just think the discipline and being able to bounce back, give the dedication, commitment, and even when times are hard, whether it's sleepless nights with my kids or things might not have worked out with a client or things, challenges, it's being able to bounce back and look at the situation and think, what can I learn from that? Instead of dwelling on things and going, oh gosh, that happened 6 months ago. No, it doesn't matter. What can I learn from that? And just keep learning, as I said. And funny enough, actually, you say, how have I kind of brought this into my business? I recently did a few months, probably about a year ago now, it wasn't that recently. I did a post about having a black belt in karate. And on the back of that, I actually got a client, and a client actually signed. Apparently, he said he saw it as a sign of discipline and structure. So, yeah, it's even though I'm not training or competing any longer, sadly, but to stay at that level, it's a sacrifice and a huge, huge commitment, and it's something that I can't do at the moment with a young family and my business, and my priorities have changed outside the dojo. But yeah, like I said, there is still that element of it's still within me, and yeah, like I said, this client signed because he said he saw it as discipline and structure.
Yeah, and that's the whole a big part of the podcast is to show that the skills do carry over. They do.
Yeah,
You've shared the values a few times about discipline and consistency and getting back up again. You're in a
yeah,
combat sport. You're not going to win all of them. There will be difficult times, and it's kind of knowing to turn it dust, as the saying goes, dust yourself back off and get back in. And the fact that somebody has seen that and gone, you know what, I understand that link, and I
mm,
feel that you'll carry that over into business. Well, that's the power of sport. That's the power of everything you did and everything you did sacrifice when you were younger
yeah,
that you can
yeah.
implement today, and it's paying off.
I think, yeah, and I don't think you realise that until you look back as you get older and you think, gosh, yeah, how much I learned in the dojo with my sensei, and how that is the person I am today. And but sometimes you don't realise that until you're kind of teens and 20s. You don't realise the influence that's had until you're that bit older, and then you look back and think, gosh, yeah, actually that's played a massive part in my life, huge of who I am today.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, what did it take to get that black belt? I think many of us know that martial arts often has different belts, different grading. But what did it take to get to that elite status? Because it is, when people say black belt, it just comes with this tag. So what did it take? What
Mm,
did you have to do?
120% commitment from a very young age. I sacrificed a lot of things, as in kind of going out with friends a lot because I was in the dojo training. Um, and it was just there was, like you said, there's different levels, there's different gradings, different belts, different level, different standards. You I had to work through all of those, all the gradings, and just keep committing and never giving up. There's lots of people that reach certain levels and then they disappear because it gets harder. The commitment, at my peak I was training 5 6 times a week, and to be at that level and training, yes, you have to sacrifice, as you do with lots of things in life. Setting up a business, running a business, initially there's lots of sacrifices to be made. Yeah, just dedication, hard work, um and yeah, commitment.
With those sacrifices, do you have any regrets?
No, no, because by the time I got my black belt at 13, and then kind of at the age of 15, 16, 17, I was still training. But I then had a social I was able to go out for I was doing things. It wasn't like I was
Yeah.
kind of chained to the dojo. I couldn't, but then I kind I was started traveling in my 20s, late teens, 20s. So, but still training, but not at that level. Things changed. But the great thing is my parents encouraged me to carry on, but they never pressurized me. They never forced me. Lorraine, you can't do this, you have. And I think that again, they had a great balance because they were committed to supporting me, but they never were the pushy parents where you have to do
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
So no, it was a really good balance.
I think that balance is essential. I played with a lot of players whose parents did make them do everything, and they were talented players, but then there was the passion element that was lost. They lost
Mm,
the love because it just became work. And I
yeah,
feel like
yeah,
having that encouragement and support, knowing that they are there, knowing you can call them for advice, or knowing that they're going to take you if you want to be taken to places. But there is, I understand any parents of athletes that are listening, it is a fine balance, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. And I think they had that balance, and and lucky they still do. You know, they're not, they've never been really pushy parents, but they were encouraging and just being there, like you said, just being there. And I think as a parent, if you push a child too much, the child will just, yeah, dig their heels in, or they would go along for so long, but they won't achieve what they want to achieve because they're not going necessarily for themselves. They're going because they're being told to go. They have to
Yeah,
go.
yeah, big difference.
There
If
is
there
a
was
big
one
difference.
thing, yeah, if there was one thing you could take away from your experience in sport, in life, that you could share with somebody that is maybe an athlete parent, or is an athlete looking at life after sport and looking to set up their own business, if there was one thing that you could give them today, what would that be?
Believe in yourself, you can do it, but also juggling a business, a young family, or if you're still competing or you're still training, or what have you, remember you don't have to do things alone. You can get support. You know, never feel embarrassed to reach out, ask for help, especially if you want to succeed. I think we all feel that we've got to get on with it. We can do it all ourselves, but you don't have to do everything yourself. And I'm very lucky that I've got a supporting network around me. So when I'm busy in my business, I've got my family, I've got my husband, my sister, what have you, who help out with my children, and that's really, really important. And also, yeah, get the support you need in your within your business, whether that's having a team, and just focus on your strengths.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, because the individual sports people that I've spoken to so far have all said the same sort of thing, that when you're in the fight, it's you. It's
Yeah,
just you and your opponent in there. Yet on the outside, you have your coach, your sensei, your parents, um, yeah, potentially other people in the dojo. You do have people around, so there is a time and a place for being the lone wolf and implementing
yeah,
what you've learned. But knowing that even in an individual sport, it's still a team sport. There are still people
yeah,
around, and there are people rooting for you. And it's just knowing that you're never alone. There is always
yeah.
somebody there that will support you.
And I think also, because obviously having my black belt and achieving that, and yes, I did have my sensei and the rest of the students in the dojo, but ultimately that was something I achieved on my own. And I've got to admit, for a long time, I found it very hard. I've always found it quite hard asking for support, asking for help. I always feel like, oh, I can do that myself. I can do, but then the juggle becomes so real that you become burnt out, you become
Hmm.
overwhelmed. So
Yeah,
when you step out into business, or never ever feel you have to do it all on your own, because you don't. You really don't. And my business
yeah,
wouldn't be where it is today if it wasn't the support I got.
yeah. Spot on. Absolutely spot on. Now, before anybody clicks on to the next fantastic episode, I'd love to remind you that there is no cost to listen to the podcast, but there is a fee. Okay, because if you have taken absolutely anything away from Lorraine's incredible story about being black belt and how she's moved that into success with business and parenting, please share the episode, subscribe, like, anything you can do to support it, because only one person needs to hear this story, and it could completely transform their life. And you could help. If that's not you, you could help somebody else by sharing that. So appreciate any support. Lorraine, thank you so much for coming on. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I can't
No,
wait
thank
to
you,
share
Shaun.
your story.
Thank you so
We've had our little
much.
chats, but not necessarily about sports. So it's lovely to learn that side of you. And I can't wait for you to start sharing more of that on social media.
I know, I know. You've told me I must do that, and I will. I will. I promise.
Well, I say it got you a client, so I think, you know, it could get you many more people that need your help because of what you've achieved. So it doesn't have to be pushed, but yeah, I think it's, you know, I think it's a fantastic achievement that you should be proud of, whether it was at 13 or not. You know, not many people can say they're a black belt.
No, thank you. Thank you, Shaun. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you for everybody that listens. We'll catch you on another episode of Always Another Game. See you all soon.